We're talking about the first budget of the next president. What is it and why does it matter?
Well, first, let me say this reminds me of like a lot of virtual Thanksgivings that we're going to see this week. With it's just all in the family here on this segment from different locations. So, happy Thanksgiving, everyone!
Happy Thanksgiving!
And transitioning into the Biden first budget, every time a new administration comes in, the first budget that they present is usually very important because it can set the tone and a legislative agenda for really the next 4 years. I mean, if you look back at, say, the Reagan budget with the big tax cut proposal, the Clinton budget, which was big on a deficit reduction plan, George W. Bush's big tax cut proposal, Obama's healthcare plan. First budgets are usually very important, and I think this one will be because Joe Biden ran on a lot of big ideas, and we have a big economic crisis to go with the healthcare crisis. So I expect that we will be picking apart parts of the Biden first budget for the next 4 years. So he's got an unusual amount of challenge. I mean, new incoming administrations often, have some challenges when they come in. But here, I mentioned the healthcare, obviously the COVID crisis, but he's going to have to maneuver through a very closely split Congress. At this point, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with the Senate, since there are those 2 Georgia races that are still outstanding. But no matter what happens there, it's going to be a very close split in the Senate. The Democrats lost seats in the House, so they will still have the majority, but by a smaller amount. And that means that it's going to be, and let me add to that, that there are pretty significant partisan differences within the Democratic Party. I shouldn't say partisan, but inter-party divisions that were put on the back burner during the campaign. But when you start putting out actual budget proposals and you're dealing with issues like climate change and healthcare, criminal justice, education, housing, climate change, anything that you're going to, some big proposals that Biden made during the campaign, it's going to be interesting to see whether he hones some of those back because of the closeness of the Democratic majority in the House and the improbability of getting some of that stuff through the Senate in such close votes. It'll be very, very interesting to see where he ends up on that. He's got a couple of things that really are sort of sleeper issues beyond the immediate, which I think are going to be very important. One is the debt limit. The debt limit is going to spring back to life at the end of July, like Frankenstein's monster. And in order to keep funding the government, borrowing money to keep the government going, something is going to have to be done about the debt limit. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a plan for that. Towards the end of his term, the Medicare Part A trust fund is facing insolvency. May not be something that we're looking at right now, but I will certainly be glancing to see what impact the budget might have on that. The Highway Trust Fund needs replenishing even before that. So look, we got short-term issues and some longer-term issues. Longer term, in this case, I'm looking at just the end of his first term. All of which, and I can mention at the end of his first term, not all, but the individual provisions of the 2017 tax cuts are due to expire. So you can throw that into the mix too to see what assumptions are made in the budget. So look, I'm very much looking forward to it. It should be a good policy debate that will be kicked off by this budget.
And I want to jump back over to the economy issue we were talking about earlier and whether we're at a point where an additional shot in the arm is needed. So what are some of the recent trends you've seen in any economic data or jobs data that has been coming out in recent weeks?
So, I mean, I think anybody who's been paying attention to the newspaper or their favorite TV news, we're aware that there's sort of a jobs recovery that started this summer and has continued into the fall. And it's reflected in the labor market data. You know, the unemployment rate has dropped from 14.7% in the spring to 6.9% now. Gross domestic real GDP economic growth. You know, we had 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. The second quarter of this year was hugely negative, but the third quarter showed a rebound. But I guess what I see happening, at least where it comes to things like the coronavirus relief package, is I see a lot of members of Congress that are looking at that data and saying, see, the economy is on the rebound. We don't really need to do anything. And the problem I have with a lot of those statistics, at least right now, where we sit right now, is all of that stuff, all of that data is backward looking. The unemployment rate is backward looking. The economic growth data is backward looking. And where we sit right now, coronavirus cases are exploding around the nation. Various pockets of the economy are probably going to have to resort to mini lockdowns, if you will, whether restaurants and bars close, gyms close, et cetera. And I think relying on economic data that's backward looking to drive policy that is forward looking is very short-sighted. I mean, it's a mismatch, right? You're comparing apples and oranges, so to speak. Case in point, you take a look at initial unemployment claims. You know, those come out weekly. And last week, you know, we had 742,000 initial claims. That was an increase of 31,000 over the prior week. And the prior week was also revised upward. So when you take a look at the data that's released with more frequency, you get the idea, you can get the picture that the economy at its most benevolent level, the economic growth is slowing down, the jobs recovery is slowing down. But when you look at initial claims and the number of coronavirus cases and hospitalizations are up, et cetera, you can portend, if you will, what lies ahead. And that is what I think should be driving policy rather than the sort of backward looking economic data.